Hello, ladies. I'm Mrs. Sherman, and I am honored that you came here to listen while you work. This is homemaking radio. It's to listen to, like in the olden days when we listened to the radio while we worked. I remember distinctly my mother turning on the radio and tuning it into the music station and listening to the 1950s music while she did the dishes. And our windows by the sink always overlooked our little vegetable garden, our little salad garden. And there was always something to look at there. And we listened to the radio while we worked. We often sang while we worked too, but this is for you to listen to. I only show you a couple of things. I read something to you, and then you may go. If you've got something to fold, if you've got something to sort, even if you've got sweeping to do. I hope that I can keep you company without interfering in your work. You know, this is an isolating job, homemaking and being home, a lot of times alone and isolating, and it is because that's the only way you can do it. There are some jobs you cannot do in a group, and that you will never have any group approval. You will never have your end of the year award. You won't have anything. So you have to be self-employed and learn how to manage it so that you reward yourself with the pleasures of life and with the pleasures of the home. And those are good pleasures. You know, there's good pleasures and bad pleasures. There's the pleasures that the Lord gives us and the human things that He gives us for our comfort. And so I'll be talking about some of these as we go today. But first, I want to show you my teacup, which I have shown before. We're recycling now. I've shown you this before. I got it at Home Goods, and it is a Grace's teaware, dishwasher safe. I don't put them in the dishwasher because eventually it will wear off the finish. And sometimes I get pretty teacups at Goodwill, but I can tell at Goodwill, the used teacups, I can tell when someone has put them in the dishwasher. So that's what I will do, is I will keep them nice, and I clean them with soda bicarb and a cloth and hot water, and I can wipe them with a dry cloth made out of cotton that doesn't have a lot of fibers on it. Or anyway, I think it's so funny, and it goes with my little cardigan sweater, which I got at Walmart yesterday for $7. These have gone way down in price. I also got these stretchy beads years ago at Walmart for about $5. Walmart is open, and I have been out and about. I've been to the post office. I have been to the Dollar Tree, and I've got some beautiful things from the Dollar Tree. I have been to the grocery stores, which are laden with salad ingredients, and I will talk to you more about salads later on. So before you go, I'll just set this up here, and that way you can see it some more. I also bought myself a pretty plant at one of the local stores here, and it has a wonderful fragrance that goes all through the house. Of course, it does make you sneeze a little bit. And I have a book to read to you called Tea and Crumpets. I am not sure what the publisher of this is, but it was originally $20, and of course I got it at Thrift Books for about $4.95 free postage. And so I wanted to read to you a couple of things, and it's mostly recipes, but I found the quotes to be so charming, so I want to read those to you. Now, for you that are new here, I'm a seasoned homemaker. I've been married since 1972. I'm approaching 70 years old, and I am a seasoned veteran homeschooler and I would say a military officer of the home, of the family, of my freedom. And I want to talk to you more about that, and I will warn you when I get into politics so you can shut it off if you think it might be in any way upsetting, because I'd like for you to go away feeling happy and feeling excited about life. This is a wonderful time to be alive if you will use it for good, productive things. So I'm going to read to you the introduction of this. I don't see an author, and I don't see but it was published in 2009. And okay, the text is by Margaret M. Johnson, but I don't see, it's Chronicle Books LLC. And so I will read what it isn't as colorful as some of the other books, although it does have really nice pictures of the recipes and some teacups and some food. I wish I were better at that, showing you online. Okay, here we go. If you are cold, tea will warm you. If you are too heated, it will cool you. If you are depressed, it will cheer you. If you are excited, it will calm you. Thank God for tea. What would the world do without tea? I am glad I was not born before tea. William Gladstone, British Prime Minister. Now, I don't know much about him or about these people. There are a couple that I do, but I like what they say. Okay. And there were a couple of that I couldn't find. I'd see them one minute, and then I would flip through it again. I couldn't find it. And there were some interesting quotes in here, but of course, when I went through it again, they were nowhere to be seen. That shows you how I can lose something in this house within a minute. Okay. I am a hardened and shameless tea drinker who for 20 years diluted his meals with only the infusion of that fascinating plant, who with tea amused the evening, with tea solaced the midnight, and with tea welcomed the morning. I can understand that now. That was by Samuel Johnson, English essayist and biographer. I believe that he wrote the first English dictionary. And I'm so fascinated with him because when I married Mr. S, he's 8 years older than I am. So he had been to university, he had been to college, and he had kept all of his books. And he had a book called Boswell's Life of Johnson. And he told me about this book, about he and his mom would stay up at night while he read Boswell's Life of Johnson, and she helped him analyze it or something. And they laughed and laughed. And so I realized that in marrying him, I had gotten myself a college education through his library. So I went through all those books and I learned about Boswell's Life of Johnson, and one particular story tickled me so much, and it was about somebody who was put in prison who made fun of his own jailer and wrote stories about his jailer. And I thought, that's just up my alley. That's the way we grew up when we were younger. Any threat against us, any kind of fear was made into an amusing story. And so that's how we approached life. And so I wanted to read that to you. Plus, there's one more piece here. I raised my lips to a spoonful of the tea in which I soaked a morsel of cake. No sooner had the warm liquid mixed with the crumbs touched my palate than a shiver ran through me and I stopped, intent upon the extraordinary thing that was happening to me. An exquisite pleasure had invaded my senses. When could it have come to me, this all-powerful joy? I sensed that it was connected to the taste of tea and the cake, but that is infinitely transcended these savors. And as a French author wrote that, and I have to say, there's something about that quote that resonated with me, because I've had people here that didn't think anything of tea, and they would drink a cup of tea, and they wouldn't say anything, and they, just kind of, and later on they would call me or write me or want to come by again for a cup of tea, and they said they felt the ambiance of it all. They felt so good. It's the hot tea, I think, and I've told you before, keep drinking tea, hot tea, no matter what kind it is, something you like, and keep that hot liquid going through your body, and you will find that it will help your health a lot. You can look at the benefits of tea online, and you can research it yourself. Now, I know the trolls have gotten a hold of that one, and that's why I keep plugging it. They say, Lydia's off her rocker. She's now saying that you can eliminate toxins from your body through the drinking of tea. Well, you can prove me wrong if you want. And you can keep talking about me because it only elevates my status online. So keep it going. In fact, I was kind of disappointed. I hadn't heard from you in about a year. Just wondered what it was. So finally, they found something that they could mock and make fun of. Now, so today I want to talk about the fact that I have been out and about. And one of the reasons I'm out and about is because I am exercising my freedom. The only way you're going to keep your freedom is to exercise it, is to do it. So I am out and about, and I'm out here in Oregon, and everybody's out and about. They're riding their bikes. They're buying bikes at Walmart. Walmart is open. It's stocked to the ceiling, the rafters, and there's salad supplies everywhere at the grocery stores. Dollar Tree is full. The trucks are sitting in the back unloading, and the employees are busy unloading. And so one of the reasons I go out is because I can. and because I should, and of course, there are now people who are, we've been taught to police each other, so there's now people who are scolding me for going out. So I'm going to keep going out, but I want to show you what I bought at the Dollar Tree. Okay, first of all, a vinyl bag for $1. It matches my sweater, doesn't it? A vinyl bag for $1. Beautiful, beautiful vinyl bag for $1. And I didn't want to buy a bag, so I said just load up my flowers, and I have $4 worth of flowers in my $1 bag. So this whole thing cost me $1. This whole thing cost me, and I loved the way they put it in the bag. It was so pretty. This is the way it came. This is the way I brought it home. That was so pretty. I just left it there, and I hung it on a doorknob. I'll just set it here to look at while we're talking. And tell you, I just love the color. It's one of those peachy blush pink colors. And so I've got a lot to talk to you about today, and being out and about. And I always make it a point to talk to the employees at Walmart, the men that are unloading the big carts of stuff, and to find out what they're thinking. And it's so interesting. And it does get into politics. That's why halfway through this, I will warn you that I'm going to get into politics. I'll tell you what people are telling me and telling you what I think. And so I'm out and about, and there are a lot of people riding their bicycles with their families, and that's good. I just hope they're all drinking tea, and that they're all enjoying each other and starting this tea tradition. It's so good, and I think you should have the best. I think as a family, you should treat yourself to the best. Don't wait for tea rooms to open. Just create one yourself for your family. So I would say the first thing that I would suggest that you do, as if you've got something to go and do, you can start doing it now. Something to unload, something to load, something to sweep, something to clean up, something to arrange. You can go and do it. But I would ask you first to get dressed. Get dressed and look nice. Get a shower. Take care of your hair. Take care of your face. Did you know, I just learned recently, you can make your own hairspray with by boiling salt and water, or sugar and water, and you can add a little bit of lemon juice or other things. But go online and look for recipes for homemade hairspray, and then you figure out what a racket it all is. You can just get a little spray bottle at the Dollar Tree or at Walmart and make your own. And depends on, you can make it light or you can make it heavy or strong holding, and you can do a lot of things yourself. Make a lot of things yourself. So the first thing I would say is go and get dressed, and dress your best, because I don't have to worry about soiling this because I'm going to wear an apron over it. So wear aprons over it. You could easily make an apron. I saw online that somebody was taking an old shirt, not an old man's shirt, but an old shirt worn by men, and cutting it a certain way, and it would tie around your back. They just it was very clever. You can go online and look for that, how to make an apron out of a shirt. And that way there's apparently no sewing. You just cut it. There might be some sewing. But if you don't have an apron, that way you won't be discouraged from wearing pretty clothes. So get dressed up and get pretty for your family. They're the ones that are going to see you, and they're going to learn respect for you. And the way you act and the way you dress has a lot to do with what their outlook on life and what their outlook on the current situation is going to be. This is so important. You play an extremely important major role in this, and I just can't emphasize that enough. So I also have been doing something that's interesting that you might want to do too, as I have told people, through text and through phone and email, that I have a table outside my house. It's all sunny and nice now. It's hot weather. Everybody's outside. I have a table outside of my house. I call it my trade table, and I put old things on it that I don't want anymore, and they come and put their stuff on, and they trade. And or they can leave things, or it's a free giveaway if you don't want to trade, and that's what I do. So I've got an old teacup, and I've got, things that maybe you could use in your garden. Maybe you don't want to drink out of them anymore, but you could use in your garden. And I might have a few plants out there and a few home seeds from home, and I would have just anything, old jars, anything that someone else might use. And so they come and they take what they want and leave if they want to leave something. So I have a few. We want to move to the somebody online on the comments made a great suggestion, and I will try to do this. She suggested I have excuse the noise out here. There are trucks going by, farm trucks. Everybody's busy. When I was in town, the traffic was pretty thick. So I'll tell you more about that later. But the questions that I was asked is, would you please do a house tour online? Well, I'm not sure I could videotape it, but I could photograph it, and it wouldn't be, I thought, oh my goodness, wouldn't that be a lot of work? Because what you see here is staged. What you see in front of me, you don't see, and I don't show you. But, so I always try to stage the background. But I could just stage it in increments and maybe take pictures of a room at a time, and I might be able to get a grandchild. You know, they say if you could get somebody age 8 or younger, they can actually figure out all this technology for you. So I get somebody to make a little slideshow with some music for you to put it on. So I'll really try to do that, and that'll motivate me to get it all in order. Get it all cleaned up, and so I'm excited about doing that. That gives me a goal, and so I would like to ask you some questions today. If you don't think you have anything to do, and if you're having a little trouble getting started, and that's the purpose of these videos. First of all, is your yard cleaned up? Now, I know some of you are going into the colder weather, but you could bundle up and go and pick up an old bucket, pick up a piece of paper, and just clean up that yard, make it look nice. I noticed when I was in town today and in a city yesterday, the sidewalks are spotless, clean. There's not a paper or a piece of trash anywhere. The front doors of the businesses are shining clean. The stores' floors are so clean you can see yourself in them. And I asked an employee, I said, oh, you people, this is so clean. And this girl said, I think it's because we're bored and we have to find something to do because they want to keep busy. And that's one of the things we can do at home. In a business, if you're running a business or you're working for someone, you're not allowed to stand around and do nothing and wait for the next customer. If you're not serving a customer or not working at the cash register, then you have to turn around and straighten something out, unload a box, straighten out a shelf. You have to be busy every minute. Well, we can adapt these business practices to our home. And this is the way I grew up. I didn't know anything about shopping or the stores, but I was 6, 7 years old, and my father told me, when you're not doing something, look around for something to pick up or clean up or put away or fold. Because I wasn't allowed to just kind of stand around and be bored. So that's the way we were. When we grew up, we were told, if you see something that needs to be done, don't sit around waiting for the other person that maybe was supposed to do it, just do it. That really helped all of us, and all of us in our family are very successful in their own work because of that attitude. If you see something that needs to be done, do it. And so that should be our attitude at home. Now, of course, it's important for you to make a list, and so that remind yourself and check some things off, and then put a little box there to put an X in that says sit still and read, or just sit still and have a cup of tea, okay? You don't have to be going all the time. And even at work, they give you 2 breaks and a lunch hour, so you don't have to be, unless you're a young mother that has a little toddler or 2 or more, and in that case, you might find yourself never sitting still. So let me ask you some questions about the home. We've moved from the appearance. Is your appearance, do you have your hair done? Do you have your skincare done? Are you dressed? Do you look pretty? Do you smile? Have you cleaned your teeth? Do you smell nice? And so here are some questions for the home. Is your yard clean? Have you swept your front porch? Is your dishwasher unloaded? Are your bedrooms clean? What will you do with your uncanceled day? Do you realize that this day has not been canceled? So somebody says, Mom, this is canceled and that's canceled in town. And you say, yes, but I'm not canceled. Your meals are not canceled. Your laundry is not canceled. And you are not canceled. And my influence on you and my teaching is not canceled. I'm not canceled. So what will you do with your uncanceled day. I think you should make up a song. Oh, the land of uncanceled days. Oh, the land of an uncanceled day. And I don't know what the words to that was. Was it, oh, the land of cloudless day? Oh, they tell me of a land of an uncanceled day. So, your meals are not canceled. Your prayers are not canceled. Your appearance is not canceled. The words of your lips are not canceled. Your love for your children and your husband and your home are not canceled. Your ability to work is not canceled. Your desire for a clean home is not canceled. And so now is the time. This is a good time. What will you do with this time? Now is the time for you to be productive. Now is the time to have, I wish that you could have all known that this would take a few weeks and there'd be some kind of, quote, crisis going on in the land, that you could use this time to be very productive. And I've seen families on YouTube make up silly songs and also help others with their suggestions. One of my favorite videos when I really want to watch something, and by the way, these videos are created so you can listen to something like it was radio. The only thing lacking is an advertisement in a silly song, but I have my own songs. Those of you who know me well know what I think, and I will make up a silly song, but to listen to, this is to listen to. And there are a lot of people doing YouTube videos to ease the situation for people who are not used to being home. But you're going to get used to being home. And one of the beautiful things about it is you find out what the value of the home is and how important it is to have it repaired and fixed up and in working order. It's a great culture. And it's just a beautiful place to live. Make it the best place you have ever been in your life. And so one of the things that I wanted to say about this is that people are now doing beautiful videos. And when I want to really watch a relaxing video, I like one called The Princess Home. It just has music in it and slideshows of beautiful rooms and homes. And she gets permission from other people to put theirs on. Maybe someday I'll have mine on. I don't know. But it's all different styles. It might not all appeal to you, but it's soothing. And there are no people in it, and there's nothing but music, and there's no opinion on it. And so it's called The Princess Home. I'll try to put a link there for you. The reason I don't have a link on my sidebar for that is because it's a video, a vlog, and my blog roll somehow won't connect it, won't take it, so I don't have that there. I might just put it separately. So now I wanted to tell you something about health, because Mr. S just got back from visiting his doctor, and because he likes to, make sure that his feet are okay, because he had an accident last year and got a foot injury and got sepsis and cellulitis, and took a while to get that over with. And it takes about 6 months to a year to get over a foot injury, especially when you're older. But his doctor told him something interesting, and I finally got it written down so I could tell you. Now, I told you that I like salads and have been buying salad supplies and eating a lot of salads and making my own salad dressing with avocado oil and rice vinegar and all kinds of spices from the cabinet. And so when he came home from the doctor yesterday, he said, all right, the doctor told him to have plenty of salads with dark green vegetables in them, and to chew them so well, chew the salad so well that it's like a cow, what is it, ruminating or, chewing, and just chew it so thoroughly, because it releases nitric acid and it fights joint pain. Isn't that interesting? So I started eating it, and I noticed my health has improved so much, and my mind has improved, and we might just reverse our aging. But I wanted to tell you, no one size fits all regarding health. I can't say that that's going to work for all of you, just the same as I do not believe in medications for one size fits all for everything. Sometimes you'll get someone who'll prescribe something, and it's a very potent drug, and they'll subscribe it to everybody, but no one size fits all for people, and so for health. So I'm not going to say that that's a guarantee. But I want to talk a little bit about this funny guy that we met that was a friend of ours for years and years and years, and he said, keep the sunshine on in your home. And so I wanted to remind you of that, to smile every day and to keep the sunshine on in your home. I wish I had more to show you, but I'm going to read to you a little bit from, now I want to mention the Christian Liberty Reader. Now what they did was take the McGuffey readers that I told you about, and they took out some of the nonsense that was in them, because there were a few things that were just fables and stuff from worldly stuff, because they were public school, and eclectic meant there was a little bit of everything. There was different kinds of literature in it, and they took out some of the things in there and just left in some of the more sensible things in here, because they're for Christian schools. And so, do you remember that I was talking about people, and these people that like to say, "Oh, remains to be seen," and that's my favorite, is it remains to be seen, and well, not all the time. Well, not everyone. The ones that like to argue back with everything that you say, instead of having a pleasant conversation and nodding their head and just adding something interesting to it and just enjoying one another, they've got to object to everything. Well, I told you I had remembered a story called How to Tell Bad News, and I couldn't find it, but I keep going deeper and deeper into my archives, and I found it, and it's in this book. It actually had a bookmark in it. And that's why I like bookmarks. I like lots of bookmarks. I leave them in my cookbook so I don't have to look stuff up again. Sometimes I'll put a little label on it to tell what recipe it is or what story it is. And so I have lots of bookmarks, and they stay in the books, because that was what I was reading, and that's what I found interesting about that book. Most books have about one or two things that I like. I don't like everything in a book. Same with a cookbook or something like this. There might be two things I like in here, but I'll put the bookmark there so I don't have to go through the whole book. All right, How to Tell Bad News. Now this was a lesson for my children, and I told them ahead of time what this was. I never read something to them or let them read something without me telling them an overview of it, so they knew what to look for. Because sometimes, I remember when I was a kid, I would be told to read something, and I'd think, well, I don't know what, and I'd read it all and somehow didn't get it. But if somebody would tell me what the point was, I could get it. So here it is. How to Tell Bad News. Mr. H and the Steward. Mr. H. Ha, Steward! How are you, my boy? How do things go on at home? Steward. Bad enough, your honor. The magpie's dead. H. Poor Mag. So he's gone. How came he to die? S. Overeat himself, sir. H. Did he? A greedy dog. Why, what did he get that he liked so well? S. Horseflesh, sure. He died of eating horseflesh. H. How came he to get so much horseflesh? S. All your father's horses, sir. H. What? Are they all dead too? Aye, sir, they died of overwork. And why were they overworked, pray? To carry water, sir. To carry water? And what were they carrying water for? Sure, sir, to put out the fire. Fire? What fire? Oh, sir, your father's house is burned to the ground. My father's house burned down? Oh, how came it to be set on fire? I think, sir, it must have been the torches. Torches? What torches? At your mother's funeral. My mother is dead? Ah, poor lady, she never looked up after it. After what? The loss of your father. My father gone too? Yes, poor gentleman, he took to his bed as soon as he heard of it. Heard of what? The bad news, sir. And please, your honor. What? More miseries? More bad news? Yes, sir, your bank has failed, and your credit is lost, and you are not worth a shilling in the world. I made bold, sir, to wait on you about it, and I thought you would like to hear the news. So after I read that to my children, and I had them read it, I said, how do people continually take anything you say and create bad news out of it? So while we're talking about the news, and while we're talking about homeschooling, first I want to First, I want to read you something from another Christian Liberty Eclectic Reader. These were for homeschoolers. If you're a teacher and you're at home, please order something like this, and you can develop a curriculum for people. You can still teach. You can familiarize yourself with this, and you can help people read, and you can help people. See, we believed that reading wasn't for just the sake of reading, because whatever you read would go into your soul, would go into your mind, and go into your heart. And that's what made the difference between a Christian education and a secular education. So this is called Against Quarreling and Fighting, and it's the book B. This one was book H. So there were quite a few of them, and I found these two. There's a lot of pages dumped out, just pulled out, a lot of these very poor binding, but you could write your own, a lot of this stuff is copyright free, and you could include what you wanted and create your own book if you're a teacher. Against Quarreling and Fighting. This is for children. Let dogs delight to bark and bite, for God hath made them so. Let bears and lions growl and fight, for 'tis their nature too. But children, you should never let such angry passions rise. Your little hands were never made to tear each other's eyes. Let love through all your actions run, and all your words be mild. Live like the blessed Christ, that sweet and lovely child. His soul was gentle as a lamb, and as his stature grew, he grew in favor both with man, and God his Father too. Now Lord of all, he reigns above, and from his heavenly throne he sees what children dwell in love, and marks them for his own. Now see, these were originally supposed to be for public schools in the 1800s, and now they've been reprinted. And so I wanted you to know about this, and these mean so much to me because my children had written their names in them, and they practiced their handwritings, and their little names are on the pages. They put their names on here. Okay. There is another story I want to read to you, but I couldn't find it, and it was a bit of a tearjerker, so I don't want to do that. So now I want to talk to you a little bit about the Magna Carta, which was a document that was apparently written on the Mayflower for the Pilgrims to live by, as they would need some kind of law to live by when they came to the New World, and on the ship. You have to have some kind of law to live by, and of course it was based on biblical things. And one of the things was that you could not prevent a man from earning a living, or anyone. You could not harm their business. You could not do, even by rumor or slander, you could not ruin someone's business. And to this day, in the USA, you cannot prevent business. And what's happening here is that we have a state governor. We have state governors, which our president turned over this decision to the state governors as to what to do about business. I guess whether to shut business down or not, so that we could also see what kind of people they were, whether they were for freedom or not, or for business. And today we still have that law that comes from the Magna Carta. I believe it's called a tortuary law, and it means you cannot prevent a man or a person, anybody, from working in a business of their own. You're not allowed to take away their tools and their ability, whereas Magna Carta kind of attacked the problem they were having in the old country, which was England. We call it the old country, and they had the problem of they could take a man's tools away from him if they wanted to punish him, and he could not earn a living. But in America, you cannot do that. So you cannot deface the door. You cannot put graffiti on their building. You cannot camp out. You cannot squat, camp out beside their door. The business area is for business. It's rather sacred. You do not destroy anyone's business to earn a living, because they are going to hire you or hire your children one day, and also customers won't come in if it's not pleasant, and those customers are your paycheck. So customers were always treated very well in America, especially. They're supposed to ask you how you're doing. They're supposed to find out if the transaction is right and tell you to have a good day and ask you to come back because they want you to come back and they want your visit there to be pleasant. And they're always in competition because to be nice because even the Bible says to be in competition with one another to be I think I'm trying to think of what the verse is, to outdo one another in love and good works. And this kind of permeates business here, to outdo one another in kindness and in politeness and courtesy. So you'll go to a store and they will say, thanks for coming in, have a lovely day, I hope you'll come back. Or I will order something online and I will receive a little note in the package and it'll say, we appreciate your business. And that's really nice. And they want to do what they can to make it so you will go back and their business will prosper. Now, if their business prospers, it also permeates the rest of society because the money that they make will be used to hire someone. That person will use their money that they earn at your business at someone else's business and to help their families and to buy food, and the farmers prosper, and it just goes around. And money was meant to be that way. It was meant to be, and that your business is a blessing from God. So these governors that decided they would shut down all the businesses knew that they could not do it because you cannot shut down a business. Now, I'm going into politics, so if you'd like to go on and you don't want to listen, there might be something else you could watch or listen to while you work, but I'll try to keep it as pleasant as possible. Maybe we'll even laugh a little bit. They know they can't shut down a business without a court order, so what they did is say that they recommended that everybody stay home and they shut down business. And so some businesses did shut down because they also knew that if they stayed open, they would be subject to regulations. So some of the businesses that stayed home are following a lot of silly little regulations and making it look like there's long lines outside of the store and that there's shortages and that they're only letting a few people in at a time and making it how can they make money if they only let a few people in at a time? And so in order to shut the businesses down, they create so many regulations that they can't stay in business. And in order to shut the businesses down, they tell the people to stay home. So there's no one out buying anything. But in my area, they are paying no attention to this. They are exercising their freedom. I went into town today just to check it out, just because I could. I had gas in my car, and I'm going to go as long as I'm able. And I just went around to look and see, and the traffic is thick and people are buying things, and the stores are not regulating who comes in or how many come in. There's no checkpoint at the door. There's no one taking your temperature. There's no one, you don't have to have passes and you don't have to stand in line. And everything's pretty, and they have, now some of the stores have this propaganda coming from the overhead speaker lecturing you about different things, and everybody just ignores it and talks loud to each other, and no one is wearing a mask where I live. And so I just wanted to tell you what the situation was, and the best way to be free is to live free and not to let the government shut you down, because they have to have a court order and they have to suspend the Constitution, and they also have to have a writ of some kind. They cannot really prevent you from doing anything because no law has been passed. And so one of the problems is a lot of you are listening to the media. The media, I am convinced, is the enemy within, and it's the enemy to your home too. How many of you go around with a knot in your stomach? How many of you go around with just a sense of, I can't breathe. And so, and then of course, I can talk to people. Now also our church is open. We go to church. We assemble. We're even having a potluck. We've had 2 potlucks since this all started. And we still have the ladies' Bible class that I'm getting ready for. We serve hot tea. We sit in our living room and we talk and we pray. And I'll remind you of the Apostle Paul, who was told by the magistrates to get out of the city and don't talk to anybody anymore, and don't assemble and don't create groups to assemble with. And he said, we must obey God rather than man. Now, he didn't say anything bad about the city ordinance or the magistrate. He did not say, I have a right to rebel against you. He didn't say anything about rebellion. So people often told me when I was homeschooling, well, you're against the public school. So I learned to say, I'm not against anybody. I am for God. I am for my family. I'm for what God told me to. They would do the same thing with homemaking. Well, you should be working because all you're doing is freeloading and you're against women working. And I would say, and you're against, female liberation. I'd say, I'm not against anything. I am for women being home and taking their full responsibility at home. So you learn to say it a different way. Okay? So if you go out and somebody says, they try to shame you. A friend will say, you shouldn't go out. Say, you're against the governor. You just say, I'm not against anybody. I am for walking out in the sunshine. I am for free enterprise. I am for helping the economy. And somebody will say, well, life is not just about the economy. So I've learned to say life is also not just about sickness and death. Life is also not just about what the governor says. Life is also not just about what the media says. Now, I would like to ask you, please take 2 days off from the media, or just take one. Take 1 day off from the media. 1 day off. And see what that does to your nerves. Keep a little diary. Make one of those little books I told you about. And minute by minute, when you get a chance, when your thoughts come to you clearly, write down how you feel. Write down what the difference is. And see if you get any more done. See if your thinking has cleared. See if you got any more clarity. And one thing about with my talking here is I'm trying to do is I had a list, and of course the word was supposed to trigger my memory to what the next thing to say was. And what I've discovered too is when I have done without the media, I have a lot more clarity, and I will say something, and at the end of the sentence, the next word triggers my next sentence. If I can do that, that's something I'm trying to practice right now. And so I'm drawing from what I believe, what I remember, and I have the distinct advantage over you because I've known this world since 1951, and I knew myself before before you were even born, some of you. So that's fun to say. So I also wanted to say something about my country. Now, some of you that are overseas, you probably know that it's kind of a national pastime to diss America, to make fun of Americans, and to say that America's going down. I've heard that almost all my life, and never knew how to. I've lived overseas, and I lived in some very negative places where that's all they did was trash Americans. And I have something to say about that right now. You can come here. You can come to America. And I want you to notice something. How often does an American say something bad about a French person, or about an Australian, or about an English person? And you will not hear it. We are absorbed in life here. We are so absorbed. We love people. We love people from all over the place. But we don't appreciate it when they start running us down. When they start saying, well, America's just this or that, or you all are just, And I've defended it in the last video where people say, well, it's just not everything's about the economy. Look, a lot of things are about the economy, but not everything's about the current media event either, okay? Our economy helps the rest of the world. If we're not successful, you're not going to be successful either, because we are the breadbasket of the world, and we are hard workers. We built this country. Have you bought a house? Have you bought a car? Have you created a garden? Are you taking care of your family? You are building this country. You are part of the country. We believe that this country belongs to us and that our government is our servant. I recently saw an interesting video by a woman in Ireland who went for a walk in the sunshine maybe 2 days ago, and there was a coastal area where a lot of cars were parked, and people had gotten out of their cars and gone down to the beach to walk and get the sunshine. And there was a policeman there taking pictures of everyone's license plates. So she got her little phone out and she got on live stream, and she said to the policeman, you're on live stream now, and there are like a million people listening. And she says, I've got your face in here, and I just want you to know I'm recording you, and you're being broadcast to the world. And she said, these people are innocent. And she said, some of them even have their Bibles sitting in the dashboard of the car. Look at that. They're just innocent people taking their families to the beach to get fresh air. And why are you taking pictures of their license plate? And you should be ashamed of yourself. We pay your salary, and we have a constitution. And she read part of the constitution to this man in Ireland. And this policeman couldn't hardly answer her. He was just obeying orders from, his people up there somewhere. But anyway, I thought she was very brave to do that. Always remember that the government and the governor, the legislature of your state, the House of Representatives of your state, your state senators, they are your hirelings. You hired them to do a job. You're paying them to do a job. And they can't boss you, and especially without a law or a court order. And even a court order can be taken to court and challenged. And so one thing that I'd like to talk to you about is what I mentioned. I was asked this on email. What did you mean by the deep state? Well, that's anybody that's been there a long, long time. A long, long time, longer than any president. It's people that are embedded in the state that are sometimes not even elected. And they kind of run everything and keep everything going as usual, never improving. Their roads don't improve. They suck in money like crazy from aid. Anytime you see that word aid, they just love to be so generous, and then they grant all this aid and everything, but you never see it. And cities and towns don't improve. In fact, Mr. S and I went with church groups to third world countries back in the day, and where we knew there were millions of dollars that was passed in Congress as aid to these countries, and not one thing had improved, and everything was falling apart. I mean, the sidewalks were falling apart, the buildings were falling apart, doors coming off of everything. There was no sanitation. The people were absolutely miserable. And we had to bring food. When we went to that country, we had to bring food for the church that we were working for so that they could create meals for us and for them while we were there. And that was the best time of their lives because they were all going to get fed. And we had to bring the food. Okay, here's what happens. Deep state is somebody that's been there for a long, long time and is siphoning off this money for them and their families. And they're very rich. They have homes, they have cars, they can travel overseas, and they don't have any problems. And so as someone like, let me just give you an example. I grew up with Walter Cronkite. Walter Cronkite was in the news media. Every week and eventually every night you would hear Walter Cronkite came into your living room through the television set. I was a little girl when I first met him on television, and he was a lifetime deep stater because he was there longer than any president, and he helped form the culture and the belief system by the way he reported things. And later on, in fact, I think you can find the most recent video of him telling how he is a communist. He admitted he was a communist. He admitted he was a socialist. He admitted he was a Marxist. And so all those years he'd broadcast into people's living rooms more often than the Bible was read by the father. Okay? Instead of listening to this evening news, the fathers need to be reading the Bible to them. Read the book of Leviticus on how God created a health plan for people to be healthy. And read the book of Acts where the Apostle Paul stood up to the magistrates and the government but he never insulted them. He just said we must obey God rather than man. And several times when he was in prison and someone tried to the state tried to secretly let him go, he said, we'll tell them to come and get us in front of all the people. They locked us up in public. Make them let us out in public. But this is the way the deep state acts, So these people that have been there forever are siphoning off money that should have gone for our roads and for employment of young people in our cities and for sanitation. And you wonder, where did the money go? And they control a lot, and they steal a lot of money from our taxes that never arrives where it's supposed to be. And we've never demanded any accountability of it. Every city, every town ought to publish in the newspaper where the money went that was sent to them by the state or by the federal government, and we never see it. I think you used to be able to find it, but I'm not sure now. But they ought to be able to. They make us tell them where we spend our money. They make us, every year with these taxes, make us tell what we received and what we spent, and that sort of thing. And so they need to tell us what they do with that money that was given to them. And our president has found out there's great corruption going on. And so one of the things that was happening was that there was a huge amount of money being sent for foreign aid into countries that never got it and never improved. And one thing that it would be voted for in the House of Representatives and passed in the Senate, and then you'd never see it again. But it would be sent from our taxes to an ambassador. And the ambassadors were in on it, and they lived in the other countries. And the ambassador would take the money, and it would be sent to a bank somewhere like Cyprus or something, and then it would just kind of disappear. And then it would appear again in the bank accounts of these deep staters, and the deep staters would be House of Representatives that have been there for 30 years. That's why we need term limits. Senators that had been there 50 years. That's why we need term limits. And the media and the pharmaceutical companies. Everybody got some except the people. And so this is what our president is rooting out, and this is why they're fighting so hard to put us under some kind of control. They're determined to shut down business and punish us for being the great people that we are, for building this great country through the economy. You don't think economy matters? How do you like living in a country with no economy? It's against God's law, totally. Because even Solomon said it is good for a man to enjoy the fruits of his labor. And I told you that in previous videos, that God planned for economy. You can see money mentioned, silver and gold mentioned all through the Bible. I wish I had time to take you through each book of the Bible, and I will show you something about the economy. Now, I wanted to tell you that you have to remember that they can't defeat us because we know the Bible and we know what we should be doing. So even though they may shut down business, they're going to suffer for it, because where are they going to get their money? If they can't extract taxes from us, see, this is where they don't think, of course, they create money out of thin air, And another thing that's going bye-bye is the income tax and the Federal Reserve System, which was neither federal nor reserve. And the central bank is going bye-bye, and we're going to have our own money based, again, on gold and on production and on farming, and like it should be, instead of money that's just written off of thin air and diluted, and it was so corrupt. And even the Lord had talked in the Old Testament and the New Testament talks about this of corrupt money and money exchanges that were corrupt. In fact, that's why Jesus turned over the changing money, the money changers in the temple. And it was more than just, my house should not be a den of iniquity. There was something else going on, and that was the exchanges that weren't fair. Giving people less money in the exchange, the international exchange. So you can go and study all that, but I just thought I would tell you that because some of you aren't going to listen. I don't know why you're not going to go listen to, I mentioned Amazing Polly, Black Conservative Patriot. I think there's another one somebody told me to listen to, was the X22 report. I'm not sure about that. And there was the Ron Paul, Liberty. And so I just wanted to tell you, just an overview briefly. And I don't have all the details. I've known about this since I was a child. And so another thing I want to remind you of is, you remember anthrax? Just like one little incident of somebody with some kind of powdered stuff in an envelope sent to someone that was well known, somebody in Congress, well known, got a letter with anthrax in it. Well, there was no proof of it, but what did they do? They shut down our mail for ages so that, because of anthrax. Well, I figured that's probably the next thing they'll do. Anything, an a narcissist. See, these deep staters are the media, the Congress people that have been there for a long, long time, and then a lot of people that are just not elected that have just been hired and they're in the government collecting a lot of benefits, and then the pharmaceutical companies. These are deep staters. These are people that have just been there a long time that are controlling a lot of things. And so what I wanted to say was the next thing that what they're doing is they're going to humiliate us because we are a great people. We are a believing people. We build business. In fact, back in the olden days, like in the 1700s, I always like to joke that the Scottish people and the English would build businesses, and they didn't have to have groups around them. They just went individually and carved out a living out of the land and built a log cabin and raised a big family and started civilization somewhere in the middle of nowhere. And the English would do that too. And the Irish tended to want to go to the larger groups, and in the cities they were more sociable and dependent on each other, and they liked the big groups around them. And the Germans liked to make rules for everybody. And then there was another group that liked to build a still, I always used to joke about that. But one of the things that these deep staters want to do to this, and they'll call you a conspiracy theorist, They just love to use that. That's to intimidate you. And I told you where that came from. One of the things that they'll do next, see, if they can't humiliate you by taking away your toilet paper, well, then they will destroy your mail. They'll say everybody touches the mail, and there's fingerprints on everything, or they coughed on it, or there's anthrax on it, and they'll cut off your mail. So they cut off communication. The thing that makes us work is communication and work. And all these things that we love, like they'll probably cut off your phone, and they'll cut off your internet because there's a virus, in your internet. That'll be the next virus that goes around is the internet. And they will cut off anything that makes you human, anything that will make you more animalistic and humiliating, anything that will humiliate you. And so the news media also creates hostility. Now, I will tell you something about why I know that. And that is, you can talk to somebody for a while, let's say at church or ladies' Bible class or just a friend on text or something. You get them back into reality, and their faith is restored, and their eyes are clear, and the innocence comes back, and the sweetness comes back, and the smile comes back, and the faith comes back. And then you wait a while, and the next thing you know, they are hardened again. The next time you see them, they've got the squinty eye, and they're hardened, and they're resentful, and they come back, and they say, well, and they hate everybody who's happy, and they have an attitude about, why you should be suffering and why you should be unhappy, because they've lost their faith. And I will tell you that watching the media and listening to the media produces fear, not faith. It actually takes away your faith. It siphons it away from you. So anytime I see that in the eyes, or even comments that I read on other people's websites, nice websites, there'll be this bitterness. There'll be this attitude that's on there, and I know that they have been sucked in by the media. I don't believe anything the media says, because in the olden days they lied to us so much, and there were several incidences in my life where I got caught up in it, and I was frightened. And it affects your family, it affects your nursing baby, it affects you if you're trying to become pregnant, it destroys everything. Fear is what the enemy always has operated on, is fear. And if you will stop watching the media, stop listening to it, watch what you look at on YouTube, and go to the Princess Home, watch that, give yourself a day off from it all, okay? And I don't like that I've turned my videos into a lot of politics, and I really don't like it, but that's why I tell you, go and watch something else. Go and watch The Amazing Polly, and go and watch BCP, Black Conservative Patriot, and go listen to them if you're interested in politics, because they have more of a Christian viewpoint to it. And the guy on Black Conservative Politics, he homeschooled his children, and he's a Christian. And so the other thing I want to warn you about is what you say to people, because you can actually create your own upset personality by what you say and what you reveal. Now remember, loose lips sink ships. So your house is a ship. I told you last time, your house is a ship. You're alone on a ship. You're Noah and the ark, and all your children are there, and you're learning to get along together on this ship, and you're all by yourself. But loose lips sink ships, and you can get each other upset. And one of the things that we do is someone will text you or someone will phone you, and they'll say, how are you doing? What are you doing? So you start thinking, well, you don't have anything to hide. So you say, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing this, and they're fishing for something you're doing wrong, and they're going to police you. That's what I call a fishing, policing, and condemning. So they'll fish for information until you don't say anything really too bad, but they'll say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Or they'll shame you because, of course, especially if you're happy, they will shame you because you should be worried about more than productivity in the home, than in running the home. And this has gone on even when there wasn't a so-called crisis. This has gone on ever since women decided to go back home, was to shame you, call you up, find out what you're doing. And another tactic that they'll do is people will call you up and try to delay you, try to keep you from starting your home schools, try to keep you from working by calling up and wanting to talk and delaying you so that you can't get anything done. And so I would say be careful what you say to them, because they're fishing. If they're fishing for information, what are you doing? And then you might say, well, I saw my daughter today. She came over. Oh, she shouldn't have come over to see you. And you start revealing things. Don't reveal things. Don't reveal anything. You can still be friendly without revealing anything. You actually could just, I read the Bible today, and this is what it said. They won't want to mess with you if they can't get information out of you. But the idea, I think, that I've seen and heard is they're fishing for information, and then they are policing you, telling you what you can and cannot do. And so the state's really clever. It's made a policeman out of everybody. And I try to smile at everybody when I'm out. And around here, they're not wearing masks, and they're casual. They're smiling at each other. They're talking to each other. And so the news media creates hostility. And so I'm about finished now, and I want you to stay away from the addiction of the news. In other words, you've got a clear head, you haven't seen it all night, you wake up, you're happy, and then you start listening, looking, watching, and paying attention to it, and then that old nervousness comes back, that old stiffness comes back, that anxiety comes back. You can't breathe, because that's going to, Mr. S says that the anxiety is going to cause more illness than a flu. So keep praying, keep drinking tea, stay away from the addiction of the news, create something beautiful, do something beautiful for yourself and for your home, keep the sunshine on in your home. And I wanted to say something about a comment somebody left. I can't think of who you are. She said that her husband had said, this is just like Stalingrad, when somebody at a store made him stand in a certain line in a certain way, and, stand back, now come forward, now, and just this little dance they do, And he said, oh, this is just like in Stalingrad. And so I had a friend that we've known for years and years and years. He used to aggravate me because he'd call and talk and talk and talk, and he's getting quite elderly now, but he wants to talk and talk and talk, and we don't want to hang up on him because, he's got to have somebody to listen to. And today he was quite amusing, and he said that what you have to do is go to a grocery store and turn your phone on. You don't even have to turn your phone on. Just act like you're talking on your phone. He said people won't listen to the truth. about what's really going on. If you want to know the truth about what's going on, go to Amazing Polly, go to Ron Paul, Liberty, go to Black Conservative Patriot, and I haven't tried this X22 report, but I will go look at that. And don't say that I'm recommending it. Just, these are just extra things you can go to. But especially for soothing information, go to the Princess Home. But anyway, he says you act like you're on your phone. And he said people won't listen to the truth. They don't want to know the truth. This is this new cultural Marxism, where if you tell someone a different narrative than what they have been indoctrinated to believe, they believe that their faith is under attack. They believe you're accusing them of something. They believe that you're attacking them if you tell them the truth. And so what you do, he said, is you walk through an aisle where maybe there's an empty bit on the shelf. There's no products on this shelf, and you'll say, yeah, it's true, the shelves are all empty, just like in Stalingrad back in the 60s. And if you people who think that productivity and work and the economy are not important, and I'd like you to compare the 1960s Soviet Union to America and see what the difference in what life was like. The quality of life, the production, the shelves full of products and goods, the happy people, like in Solomon. Remember the Queen of Sheba? Oh, Solomon, your servants are happy, your people are happy, everyone is so prosperous. What is the secret, to your success? I think he said something like fear God and keep his commandments. But and then you compare the Soviet Union with lack of products, lack of anything, and starving people and miserable people without faith, and a land that isn't productive. You compare that in the 1960s, and I will tell you whether or not the economy, you can tell yourself whether or not economy is important. So those of you who are looking down on the USA, which I also believe that our country is a blessing from God, and that it's a sin to criticize and act ungrateful for the country, the land that's given us so much. And that's why we're careful. We do not want God's blessings removed from us. I will not brook any bad language about my country and my president. You start running us down, that's where we part company. You won't hear from me. I won't be answering your texts. I won't be communicating with you anymore. I won't be answering your calls, because I'm not going to listen to it. I'm not going to have my mind sullied with it, because I want to be pleasing to God. And some people think that it's healthy to be constantly running someone down or complaining. And we have plenty of those. That's not anything new. This happened, some of these books, these homeschool books, like this Christian Liberty Eclectic Reader, have illustrations like that in there about the difference between the person that was gloomy and the person that was cheerful, and what they produced. So ladies, there's also a book I want to tell you about called Gaining Favor with God and Man. And there's an interesting story in here that I marked. I won't have time to read it to you. And it was called Hardiness. And now, while there's some things in it that you have to be careful with all these materials, because they all have a slant, religious slant that you might believe in, but you could also glean quite a bit out of it, and some of it's copyright free. You could write your own with your own ideas in it. So I want to say that I'm happy that you're here, and I hope I can leave you feeling better than when you came, and I hope that you will just make your house beautiful. Fill it with beautiful sounds and smells, and with a beautiful attitude and colors and flowers. And I will show you sometime how to make paper flowers, which we learned to in our lives. And you don't have to be miserable. You don't. So take a scented bath and listen to some music. Dress up, look pretty, act like you're going to somewhere important, and start conducting your home. Put your clean apron on, and have good posture, and a bright outlook to life, because the more bitter you get, the more depressed you get, the closer you are to death. And if you want to live, it's like Auntie Mame said in that book by her nephew. Most life is a banquet, and most people are starving to death. So don't starve to death. There's plenty around to be happy about. Exercise your freedom. Exercise your freedom to bake and cook. This is nothing new. This has gone on forever. If you've ever stood for anything, if you've ever stood for homemaking, or if you've ever stood for free enterprise, or tried to get a business going, there's always, remember that poem? There's always someone to tell you it cannot be done. There's always somebody. So if you've ever stood for anything, some people will say, oh, nobody bothers me. Well, but if you ever stood for anything, somebody is going to bother you. But stand up to it and live your freedom. So ladies, I hope this has been helpful. Hope you go to some of the sites that I talked about, and that's helpful to you too. Don't remain in ignorance. Always dig a little deeper to see what's really going on. And I'll talk to you more about some of these things tomorrow if I can get on here. So thanks for all your love. Thanks for your prayers. Thanks for your donations. And thanks to the lady who just sent me a package. I wanted to do an unboxing of it online here, and because I've never done an unboxing from anyone but my grandchild, and I've got a lot of things to show you. I have finished a pioneer dress for my granddaughter, and so I'll talk to you later, and God bless. Bye.